Morning, dear students. Today we're going to take a portrait of the artist as a young man, chapter 2, section 2. Okay, this chapter is mainly about Dublin because there are two yellow caravans who had halted one morning before the door, and these two caravans took all the furniture in his house and they moved from Black Rock. You remember the first place that Stephen lived at here in section 2, and they are moving from the country, beautiful place into where they were moving into a new city, and that city made him sad. The sudden flight, the concept of flying from somewhere else, the epigraph. The sudden flight from the comfort and reverie of a black rock, the passage through the gloomy, foggy city. Who was gloomy and foggy? What was? It is Dublin. It's negative. For him, it's negative, while a black rock is comfort and beautiful reverie. He thought of the bare, chairless house in which they were now to live, made his heart heavy, and again, intuitive foreknowledge of the future came to him. Here, he's going to describe Dublin. Dublin, for him, this description is very important because the scenery here plays an important role in his development as a character. Dublin was a new and a complex sensation. Uncle Charles had grown so witless that he could no longer be sent out on errands, and the disorder in settling in a new house left Stephen freer than he had been in a Black Rock. In the beginning, he contented himself with circling timidly around the neighboring square, or at most going halfway down one of the side streets. But when he had made a skeletal map of the city in his mind, he followed boldly one of its central lines until he reached the Custom House. He passed unchallenged among the docks and along the quay, wondering at the multitude of corks that lay bobbing on the surface of water in a thick yellow scum. He's comparing, you see, he's just the water image here. He's not beautiful blue. No, it's yellow scum and thick, and it's not clean. It's filthy, not only by the color yellow. Remember, it's with corks. Corks are bobbing all over the surface. So he, instead of looking at a beautiful harbor, he's just noticing the negative sides of it. And the crowds of query porters, and the rumbling cars, and ill dressed, breaded bearded policeman. Even the policeman is ill dressed and bearded. So, the vastness and the strangeness of life suggested to him by the bales of the merchandise stocked along the walls and swung aloft out of the holes of the streamers, waking again in him the unrest which had sent him wandering in the evening from garden to garden in search of Mercedes. Do you remember in section 1 when we talked about Mercedes? Okay, here again, Stephen, in the midst of this city, he finds refuge in remembering Mercedes and in a garden, not in a city. The idea, he loves gardens, and he takes us back into a scenery where, and amid this new bustling life, he might fancied himself in another Marcellus, but that he missed the bright sky and the sun-warmed trellis of the wine shops. Okay, this is a scenery from the Count of Monte Cristo. So he's seeing the same port as in the story, but for him, it A vague dissatisfaction grew upon within him as he looked on the cuisine, on the river, on the lowering skies. The sky was low, the river was dirty, and yet he continued to wander up and down day after day as if he really sought someone to elude him. He's angry. He has two major sources of his anger. Okay, let's see what are the causes of his embitterment. The causes of his embitterment were many, remote and near. He was angry with himself for being young and the prey of restless, foolish impulses. Angry also with the change of fortune which was reshaping the world about him. He's talking about his father here. Yet his anger led nothing to the vision. He was detaching himself from everything. So, he's angry for two reasons. These reasons are important. You have to know why he's changing in his character. He's angry because he's young and he has impulses, but he doesn't know how to address them. Second, he's angry because his father is losing his fortune. And because of his anger and because if he spent a lot of time alone, he started to have an epiphanies. There are three epiphanies. All of them start he was sitting alone. It's important that you know he was sitting where, doing what, and what did he see to conclude these epiphanies. Okay, so the first incident, he was sitting on a backless chair in his aunt's kitchen, and they were looking at a magazine, and in that magazine there was a beautiful Mabel Hunter. Uh, she was a beautiful girl in a picture in a magazine, and he was doing nothing about it. People were looking in a magazine and they saw a girl. But for him, it just imprinted in his brain. What imprinted in his brain? Yes, the woman that was beautiful. She was a beautiful, beautiful. What an exquisite creature. You know, that Mabel Hunter uh, is uh, is a name, although it's a random name, but he puts it. James Joyce puts it for a reason. In his later novel, the main character Bloom, his name is Bloom Hunter. So some critics believe that here he is telling you parts of characters that he's going to write about, like Mabel Hunter maybe is going to be the heroine of Ulysses, his next famous novel. Okay, that was the first epiphany. He was sitting in his aunt's kitchen. No, it was not a kitchen, in his aunt's kitchen. Yes, it was in his aunt's kitchen, and they saw a girl, Mabel Hunter, beautiful, on the magazine. The second time, he was sitting in a narrow breakfast room. They don't tell you where, as if you know it, and with whom they don't tell you. He just sitting and watching. Life goes by. Anyway, a feeble creature like a monkey was there. She popped her head. It seems that she's an old woman. She popped her head and she asked the other woman who was standing next to Stephen, "Is that Josephine?" And they told her, "No, Elaine, it's Stephen." "Oh, good evening, Stephen. I thought she was Josephine." Okay, actually, this is very strange. One of the strangest parts that I've read, because he's um, he's concentrating on names. He doesn't know the woman. He doesn't know what is it, but the name brings all these emotions in him. Josephine is the name of Napoleon Bonaparte's wife, as you remember. Yes, she's Josephine. So, at the third time, he was sitting amidst a children's party at Harold's Cross. His silent, watchful manner had grown upon him, and he took little part in the games. The children, wearing the spoils of their crackers, danced and romped noisily. Uh, though he tried to share their merriment, he felt himself a gloomy figure amid the gay cocked hats and sunbonnets. Here he's just telling you that he's not a child anymore, although he was sitting in a children's party. But then something changed his mood. This, we are going to name her the birthday girl. She has a very important role that we're going to see in the sections that will follow. But when he had sung his song and withdrawn into a corner, he began to taste the joy of his loneliness, the mirth. Okay, why? Because he noticed that someone was looking at him, and that someone laughed and glanced and flattered with him. So she excited his heart, and he was happy. His heart danced upon her movements like a cork upon a tide. Beautiful imagery. He heard what her eyes said to him. Okay, so he knew that the girl likes him, and she goes with him into the last tram going home. They were alone in the tram, and the girl wanted him to take an action, but he could not. And uh, he could not. And amid those negative reactions, okay, he remembered Elaine. He remembered Elaine, and you can see in all of this section all the women just flying all around, starting with Mercedes, Mabel Hunter, Josephine, the birthday girl, and Elaine. Like he's remembering all the girls in his life, but what kind of reaction does he do? Nothing. She, too, wants me to catch hold of her, he thought. That's why she came with me to the tram. I could easily catch hold of her when she comes up to my step. Nobody's looking. I could hold her and kiss her. But he did neither. And when he was sitting alone in the deserted tram, he tore his ticket into shreds and stared gloomy at the footboard. Why? Because he knows that he doesn't do any reactions. He just acts. All the action goes inside his brain, but he never performs them. Okay. The next day, he sat on his table. He started to write poetry because here this part is very important because he has an epiphany. Uh, Not in it. In that part, when he tears things up, he's just telling you that he loves all kind of women. He's developing this interest in them, but he doesn't know how to approach it. Okay, so as he's being a young artist, the first thing he does is to write about it. He thought that he's going to fail because let's see how he starts. He took new ink, new bottle, a new exercise book. By the force of habit, he written on the top of the page the initial AMDG, which are the first line. It's the Jesuits' motto. These initials are very important. You have to know what they represent and what their translation in English because they are Latin. It means for the greater of God. He starts the poetry with the name of God. Then he rises to EC. EC, in your notes, her name is Emma, which also is in the future in other books that we're gonna see this character. But here she is nameless. It's just these initials does not stand for anyone. Just like he's trying to imitate Byron, Lord Byron. We are going to see how important Byron is for him in section 3. He wants to imitate the style of Byron. He starts with the name of God, then he moves directly to Byron, Imitating him, he wants to write a love novel, a love poem. He's thinking of the Christmas dinner. Do you remember the fight between Dante and Mr. Casey over Parnell? At that day he wanted to write a poem about politics and the fever it caused him and the emotions, but he failed. And he thought that that theme did not move in him as much as he thought it would. So he failed to write. Okay, this is important. The Jesuits' motto, which is for the greater glory of God, the AMDG. Okay, so EC, we have Emma Clary. It's a character in Stephen's Hero, one of the novels uh, sorry, written by James Joyce. Um, these shows contradictions. What shows contradictions? Starting with the name of the Lord and then moving to a love a poem and then ending with the name of the Lord. Here he is referencing, in this section, he has two references to his books, his future books. Here we have E.C., the character in Stephen's Hero, another novel is going to write, and Mabel Hunter, which is the Bloom, the hero of Ulysses. His name is Hunter, so Mabel may be referred to Molly Bloom, which is the heroine in that book. So, Lord Byron, uh, uh, please remember that Lord Byron, although he's a great poet, and but he was rumored to have a huge, he had a strange relationship with his half sister, and this made him to be condemned by many as a heretic. So this is a very important fact to remember about Lord Byron when you get to section 3. Okay, so his first poem, Politics, the death of Parnell did not move him, but love did. Now it seems as if he would fail again, but he did not. Failed? Why? We think he's going to fail. We're going to think he's going to fail because politics full sorry politics did not move him, so he could not write. Okay, so he wrote a poem about his incident with the birthday girl that he met on the that he turned returned to in the tram, and in that poem he did everything he did not do in reality. So he was happy. He ended the letter with he ended the poem with the letters LDS, again as a Jesuit motto. He wrote it on the uh, foot of the page, hidden it in a book, and then he moves to his mother. So what does LDS mean? It means to the praise to God forever. Ends with religion, starts with religion, and but in between we have love. It's juxtapositions, opposites in the same page. Okay, now we have his father coming to Stephen and telling him that he's not going to Clongowes anymore. He's changing his school because his father is is losing a lot of money and their condition is getting bad and worse every day. So he's going to another school, is Baldivier, and for his discomfort, his father keeps telling him that when he went to Clongowes, he saw Father Dolan, and Father Dolan asked him, "What about your son, the one who is wearing glasses? Does he wear glasses still?" And he told him all about the story how Stephen went to the rector and told on him, and they laughed. His father laughed at his pain. So this moment just it rose negative feeling in Stephen that are going to increase in section 4 and culminate in section 5. It's very important here. You see, he's telling him, Father Dolan and I. Yeah, he's telling him that we made fun of it. When I told them all at dinner about it, Father Dolan and I had a great laugh over it. You'd better mind yourself, Father Dolan, said I, or young Dedalus will send you up for a twice nine. Okay, they were laughing again. Ha ha ha. So we end this section with three epiphanies on finally realizing that Stephen is moved deeply by women. He's changing school and he's changing his attitudes and feelings towards his father. Thank you for listening. See you on the next video.